Friar Lane. Signature Tax specialize in tax advisory for many fields, including capital allowance, research and development, inheritance tax planning. Mashallah, we had a fantastic show last week, which was about inheritance tax, and we've had a fantastic feedback from that, and a lot of questions were asked about that as well. Um, I now have Ismail Jasad, the director of Signature Tax, on the line with me. Now, Ismail and I have worked previously together at a Riyam bank for almost 7 years, after which Ismail went on to join Signature Tax. And I've joined him at Signature Tax earlier this year. Well, it's been about 6 weeks since I've joined him. So, Ismail, Assalamu alaikum, how are you doing?
Wa alaikum salam. Very well, thank you yourself.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, not too bad, thank you. So, today's episode is about you telling us more about Signature Tax. So, if you could just start off with who are Signature Tax and what do you do?
Of course. First of all, Jazakallah, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. And it's great to be involved. Um, Signature Tax, we're a firm of chartered tax advisors. So we have a nationwide presence, head office in Manchester, and we have offices in London, and just recently opened an office in Leicester. And essentially what we do is we specialize in specific areas of tax, primarily related to property, but also looking at companies, restructuring, and areas where we feel that we can add value to our clients.
So, Isma, you said you've just opened an office in Leicester. So, what brings you to Leicester?
I think it's been coming for a while. We have clients in Leicester. We've got clients in Birmingham, and I think the whole Midlands area is definitely somewhere where we've looked at for the long term, because there's a lot of demand for the work that we do. In particular, in Leicester, from my travels when I used to be at the bank, there's a lot of trading businesses. There's a lot of clients who need that advice in order to plan their taxes properly, especially when it comes to succession planning, which I understand that you guys have already discussed in a previous show. But really, it's about helping the community, educating people, and just making them aware of tax efficient planning options for the family, for the businesses, and just to make sure that it's all in line with the long-term vision and the long-term goals.
Sure. But I already have an accountant, so why do I need a tax advisor? My accountant does everything for me.
Yeah, so good question. There's a big difference between an accountant and a tax advisor. So accountants generally specialize in doing the accounts. They submit their year-end company accounts. They do the tax returns. They do, PAYE, VAT. So accountants is more about the admin side, where you kind of make sure that statutory requirements are met and filings are done on time. Now, tax advice, it's a specialist area. Tax is a minefield, as you're aware. There's loads of different areas in tax. There's inheritance tax, there's income tax, we've got corporate tax, and each area there's different strategies. So, for example, when it comes to our high net worth clients who have properties, being a common example, it's quite straightforward to submit the rental accounts. But then when it comes to planning, so how do we pass the assets on to the next generation? How do we ensure that the income is tax efficient? How do we ensure that the structure of the group, so there could be other trading businesses, how do we get that done? So essentially it's like a relationship between a GP and a specialist, a heart surgeon, for example. So a GP you'd go to for checkup, and a heart surgeon you'd go to, for heart related operations, for example. So, we try to specialize in this area.
Yeah.
And we work with many accountants across the UK, because accountants generally would come to us saying, look, we've got clients who need advice, and we work with the accountant, we work with the client, and the main thing is to make sure the client is happy and the client receives the best level of service that they could get from us.
Okay, so basically, the GP diagnoses, so the accountant diagnoses, and then you provide the remedy. That's
Yeah,
basically
so
what
to
you are.
speak. So I mean, yeah, I've just tried to put it in a way where it's easy to understand.
That's
But
right.
essentially, what I wanted to show is that we can work hand in hand with accountants,
Sure.
and we work with many accountants across the UK, and it works well because accountants know that, look, this is our level of expertise, and anything above this, it's beyond our level of expertise, and they happily team with us, and we work together to ensure that the goals of the clients are met effectively.
Sure. And Ismail, what type of businesses does your service benefit?
So we work across a wide, variety of sectors. Um, Predominantly, we work with property businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So in the Asian community, especially, bricks and mortar is a common investment for the Asian community. So I would say a lot of our clients, own properties, develop properties, buy and sell trading properties. But we also work, for example, with dental practices. We work with GP practices. We work with law firms. We work with professional firms. So I guess it's a wide variety of sectors that we operate in, but predominantly it is property related. But nevertheless, we do get clients that own very successful trading businesses. For
Yeah.
example, care homes. You've got news agents with various offices. You've got office blocks. You've got professional firms, legal firms. So what we do is we try to focus on, predominantly a client will have property as an investment, and they will have trading businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and we work out strategies where they can benefit in the long term in both these areas.
Okay, fantastic. So, Ismail, I've just had a couple of uh, questions come through on text
Okay.
message. So the first question is asking about property incorporation.
Okay.
So what is property incorporation?
Yeah. So what's happened is over the years, HMRC have made changes to the taxation of property owners, landlords.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, previously landlords would claim wear and tear. That relief has now been withdrawn. There was also the benefit of claiming the interest on the tax. So the interest that the clients would pay on the mortgages, they would be able to offset that against the tax in full. But by 2021, that's going to be effectively reduced dramatically.
Sure.
So what clients are now realizing is it's not tax efficient to own properties in personal names.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're advising a lot of clients, and again, it's all done on a case-by-case basis, if the clients meet certain requirements, then we could potentially transfer properties from personal names into a more tax-efficient structure.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it involves careful analysis, and obviously it has to be beneficial for the client from a cost perspective and obviously from a tax perspective.
Yeah.
But essentially, the end goal is that the properties could be transferred into a company if they're running as a partnership, for example, for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite a specialist area that we do a lot of work in.
Yeah.
And like I said, we carefully analyze each transaction to make sure that clients meet the requirements.
Yeah.
And essentially, they could get the properties into a company, and there will be relief on capital gains tax, and there will be relief on stamp duty land tax as well.
So they'll get relief on both capital gains tax and stamp duty
Yeah,
land tax.
yeah. I mean, the key thing here, Huzaifa, is that clients have to be operating as a partnership business.
Sure.
So, if, for example, you've got husband and wife that have been in partnership for many years, the natural transition is to incorporate the partnership into a limited company,
Mm-hmm.
because a limited company will offer asset protection. It will offer potential opportunities to succession plan at a later stage. But the main thing is that as long as they meet the requirements, they can potentially transfer into a company, and there will be relief on the capital gains tax by relying on Section 162 and also on the stamp duty land tax.
Sure. And are there significant costs when you do something like that? Is it very expensive? Is it worthwhile for the
To
customer?
be to be honest, the cost will definitely be worthwhile in terms of the savings the clients will get. So I'll give an example. If the partnership properties are worth, for example, current market values £5 million, and the historic cost price was 1 million, when we transfer the properties into the limited company, essentially the base cost will be uplifted to today's market value.
Hmm.
So it's a huge potential saving, because if the clients were to, for example, dispose of any properties in the future, they will only pay tax on any uplift above today's market value.
Okay. So there's
That,
a.
that's one. Yeah, that's one saving. The other saving is from an income tax perspective. Once you're in a limited company, you only pay corporation tax at 19%,
Okay.
and then you have more control on how much income you extract out of the company. So in your personal names in a partnership, you have to pay tax on the money whether you need that money or not. However, in a limited company, you have more flexibility on what you extract out of the company.
Sure. So it's more beneficial, especially for the higher rate taxpayers.
Yeah, 100%. Because if you assess the high rate taxpayers who would be on 40 or 45% income tax, as soon as the properties are in a company, you're paying corporation tax at 19%, and then in terms of taking the money out, there's different options. But if you look at the dividend structure, and if it's within the basic rate limit, then the maximum they would pay is potentially 7.5%. So overall, if you balance it, company versus personal,
Hmm.
company is definitely more advantageous. But
Okay.
like I said before, it's not a solution for everybody.
Yeah.
We would have to do it on a case-by-case basis. And, as a firm of chartered tax advisors who are regulated by the Chartered Institute of Taxation, the CIOT, we don't do any tax avoidance. It's perfectly legitimate tax planning we do. However, we have to make sure that the advice we give is suitable for the client.
Sure. Now, obviously, there's also the element of financing. So, if a customer wanted to finance a property or a portfolio of properties once it's been transferred into a limited company, how easy is it to do that? And is there any Islamic finance options available for them as well?
Yeah, so like you mentioned before, my background was Al Rayan Bank. There's quite a few Islamic banks today in the UK that are quite active in lending across property portfolios. So, from a bank perspective, we work with a lot of the main Islamic banks in the UK, and they're quite open to lending to limited companies.
Hmm.
Historically, the issue has been that clients are very used to, getting the buy-to-let lenders to lend on the portfolio, and in the past, it was quite easier to get these mortgages. However, now, because of regulations and because of a lot of scrutiny from the banks much prefer to lend to limited companies, and especially Al Rayan Bank, for example, I think last couple of days ago, they've just launched a new product aiming at this sector, because a lot of buy-to-let investors want to switch to a limited company, but they don't want to compromise their faith, the Islamic faith, and now they don't have to, because there's an opportunity to refinance in a company and not paying interest.
Yeah, I think we need to start invoicing Al Rayyan Bank for all the promotion that we do while we're on air. Every week they get mentioned, and you've just promoted their latest product. So, yeah, I think we'll have to send them an invoice for that. Ismail, so thank you for explaining what incorporation is. Um, you know, in the first initial talk show that we had, we mentioned inheritance tax, incorporation, capital allowances. Now we've discussed incorporation, and we had a fantastic show last week with Sobi on inheritance tax. Can you touch upon what capital allowances are and who that benefits?
Yeah, of course. So capital allowances, excuse me. Again, it's a very specialist tax relief available to commercial property owners. So anybody in the UK who owns commercial or semi-commercial property, they can benefit from this tax relief. Um, it's it's available to any taxpayer. So if you own the property via your personal name, if you own the property via partnership or a limited company, any structure that pays tax, you can essentially get money back from HMRC. So the way it works is capital allowances is like a specialist area where a lot of people have bought properties and they've not really got much tax benefit from these investments. So what HMRC have done is in 2001, they amended the Capital Allowances Act, and there's essentially two main areas we look at. One is plant and machinery, and the other is integral features. So we send a specialist surveyor to go out who surveys these properties for the client, and we identify, for example, wiring, air conditioning units, ventilation. A lot of these commercial properties will have quite advanced systems within the property, but the question is, how do you extract the value in terms of a tax perspective? So what we do is we have specialist surveyors that go out and do these surveys, and based on that, we get the tax relief for our clients. So essentially, if a client has bought, I'll give you an example, a client bought an office block for £1 million, and that office block was bought under a company name. We went in, we did the survey, we did the analysis, and we identified approximately £300,000 worth of capital allowances. Because the client bought this property for a company, they would essentially get 19% corporation tax relief on that 300,000. So roughly speaking, about 60,000 back they got from HMRC. It's a once in a lifetime claim per property. So as part of our process, we would need to check before all owners back to 1996 whether they've claimed or not. Because if a previous owner has claimed, then unfortunately that restricts our potential to claim. But we do all of that as part of our fact-finding exercise.
Sure. And is there any criteria on the type of commercial property that you can make claims on?
Not really. I mean, the highest claims tend to be office blocks, care homes, GP practices, dental practices, because there's a lot of specialist kit out for these places. But generally, I mean, we've done it for office blocks, we've done it for retail premises, we've done it for care homes. Anything that is commercial in nature, so anything that's not residential, we can basically claim on. To make it worthwhile, I would say the de minimis purchase price you're looking at is about 300,000. So the capital allowances is always based on the initial purchase price of the property. So if you bought the property for 300,000, it could be worth a lot higher today, but we can only claim on the initial purchase price.
Okay. And how long does this process take?
It all depends. I think the key is to make sure that we have all the legal documents from the client. So when they bought the property, the sales and purchase agreements, commercial property, standard inquiries, Section 1 and 8. So there's quite a lot of documents that we need to review to make sure that we have the entitlement to claim. On average, per property, it could take a couple of weeks, up to 6 weeks, up to 8 weeks.
Okay, and do we need to get solicitors and accountants involved in this whole process?
We would just need the client to sign the form of authority that they're happy for us to engage with the accountant or the solicitor. More the solicitor, because the solicitor will have a lot of the legal documents. Yeah. And then we would then just correspond with the solicitor, and we would basically take matters from there. So we would request the documents, we would assess the documents, and we would advise on the potential claim.
Okay, fantastic. I've just had a text message come through in regards to a question for you, Ismail. So what's the difference between property investments and property trading?
Yeah, very good question. Get this quite a lot. If, for example, you had a property which you rented out, and the plan was to keep that as a long-term investment, that would be classed as a property investment. If, for example, you had a property where you bought it, for example, developed a property and then with a view to then selling it on for profit, that would be classed as a trade. So what's important is, especially when a lot of clients have a mixture of investment and trading properties, is to clearly differentiate assets. So what we do is, for example, we would house all the property investment uh, all our investment properties in a property company, which will be specifically earmarked for long-term rental yielding properties. And on the other hand, we would have a separate company which would, for example, be associated with the trading side of the business. So all the property developments would be under separate companies. And from a tax perspective, if you do that, there's a lot of tax relief available for trading companies, trading businesses,
Okay.
especially on inheritance tax, potentially where if you have a trading company that potentially qualifies for IHT inheritance tax relief,
Hmm.
that's quite advantageous. So as soon as you have investment and trade together, then it just makes it a bit more complex. But if you can differentiate both out, then it generally makes it a lot more easier to plan for the long term.
Sure. And in terms of this, again, is there any different costs involved for having different type of companies in property investments and property trading, or is more or less is similar process to do both of them?
Yeah, I think it all works on a case by case basis, but especially if clients have properties which are under personal names, which perhaps are investment properties, and then they've got some assets which they want to trade and develop. What we do is, we're more than happy to speak to the client and do an initial proposal,
Mm-hmm.
and we can advise on our costs. But essentially, the way we propose the work is, we would only propose the work if we feel there is advantage to the client.
Yeah.
So the tax advantages, the tax benefits would clearly outweigh, the fees, for example. And the main thing is to make sure that the proposal that we give is in line with what the client wants. So a lot of the times we do quite a bit of work where we restructure companies, we restructure entities. Especially one point to note is in Leicester, I've noticed there's a lot of trading businesses. So where a lot of clients may have properties in trading companies,
Sure.
we would definitely advise, depending on the situation, of course. But there is a potential where we can split out the trade from the assets and just demarcate both companies, and that involves we get clearance from HMRC, we get approval from them, and the clients achieve a lot more tax efficient strategy moving forward.
Sure. So, Ismail, we're just going to take a quick break right now.
No problem.
You're listening to Ramadan Special on EVA 102.5 FM with myself, Huzaifin Afsaka, and Ismail Jasat from Signature Tax. We'll be back with you shortly, inshallah. So, after the break, we're going to have a few more topics that we're going to talk about, and we'll be taking more questions as well.
limited company, and effectively the end goal is the properties are in a limited company, and there's been no capital gains tax and no stamp duty land tax paid. However, just to reiterate that it is on a case-by-case basis, and we are more than happy from Signature Tax to provide specialist advice on a case-by-case basis to these clients and make sure that effectively the advice we give is valid, because it's all on a bespoke scenario, so everybody's different, and we want to be able to advise accordingly.
Yep, that's fair enough. That sounds absolutely perfect as an answer. So they actually have to seek more further clarification with you guys.
Right.
Signature Tax. We of course will give all the websites and telephone numbers out at the end of the show, but I'm sure that they can just type in Signature Tax Leicester.
Yep, we've got our telephone numbers on our website, so if they go onto our website, they can find all our contact details straight from there.
Fantastic, it's fantastic. So there was a brother having problems listening or hearing us, but just to remind everyone, we're listening to Ramadan Special on EAVA FM 102.5 and on the World Wide Web on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube as well, I understand. There's lots of other things joining us. Right, all of these social media things. There were some more questions. I did see some further questions there. But so let's go on to just talking about the importance of Muslim brothers and sisters. Many of them have got high street loans for their houses, haven't they?
Yes.
And they're probably, because I've heard that in the early days, the so-called Islamic mortgages were higher in rates in terms, and they were, I think, it's true to say. Are they now equalizing, and is it worth them thinking about swapping to a non-high street, more of a specialist provider?
Yeah, certainly. As I mentioned, we are, Al Rayyan Bank and the likes of other Islamic banks available that provide Islamic finance are now in the middle in terms of price range, but they offer the flexibility, so in the long run it works out a lot cheaper for you. However, as Islamic finance grows in this country, as there's more and more support from our community, Islamic finance will get cheaper, and we've seen that. Historically, rates were significantly higher compared to Islamic conventional banks, but now they are more competitive. You just have to look at the expat mortgages or expat financing. Al Rayyan Bank is one of the leading providers of expat financing, so a majority of the clients that they receive from abroad that are currently working abroad but British passport holders are non-Muslim clients.
Okay, right, that's fine. Brother Mohammed Yassin says on Facebook, good, we can hear you now. Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah. I'm glad of that. Very good. So regarding the other issues, so in terms of being able to jump through hoops and go through all, because getting a mortgage these days is not easy, is it?
No.
It's not an easy affair.
No, whether it's conventional or Sharia compliant, there are criteria you have to meet. There is a process that you have to follow. The days of self-certified mortgages are no longer there. So you can't just go in, sign a document to say, yep, I can afford it, and get a mortgage or Islamic finance. The credit crunch in 2008 was a prime example of why that occurred, and for that reason there's no longer a straightforward process. Well, it is straightforward as long as you meet the criteria and provide the relevant documents.
Fantastic. Brother Huzaifa and Brother Ismail have been doing a wonderful job answering your issues to do with, technical issues to do with tax liabilities, tax planning, and that's what it's all about from Signature Tax. And they are available, you can look at their website as well. So let's have their website now. Let's tell the brothers and sisters out there.
So our website is www.signaturetax.co.uk. So Signature Tax is all one word. Our offices are on 23 to 25 Friar Lane. That's Leicester, LE1 5QQ. You can contact me directly on my mobile, and my mobile telephone number is 07885 810 471, or you can ring our office on 0333 009 0801.
Fantastic.
Also, just to note, we are on Twitter, so you can follow us at Signature Tax UK. As Huzaifa mentioned, we try to update regular content on there, as well as you can follow myself, Ismail Jasat, and Huzaifa on LinkedIn. So, definitely loads of content out there.
Fantastic. I think we can put that all that information as a comment on the Facebook page. If our producer will do that, it would be absolutely wonderful. Put the link for Signature Tax. All their details, in fact, as been mentioned. Don't forget, you are, of course, listening to Ramadan Special on EAVA FM 102.5 FM, all the way, broadcasting all the way through 7 days a week, for the whole month of Ramadan, plus a few days afterwards as well, Brother Huzaifa. And of course, lots and lots of tax issues always come up. Is this an important time of the year for tax? I think it is, isn't it? It's April just gone.
Yes.
And so people would have been now auditing their affairs, would they?
That's
Is
right.
that something you get involved with?
Yes, so we would get involved with any part the client requires our service, even if it means auditing or, as you know, there's HMRC investigations that can take place.
Yeah.
So we can manage that for them as well.
God forbid. Yes. Okay, so we've got about 4 minutes to this section of the show. So why don't you, brothers and sisters, get busy with your questions regarding your tax liabilities, and are you planning your tax? Maybe, I think most people actually probably avoid the whole subject of tax until they absolutely have to, isn't it, Huzaifa? Yeah?
Yes, you generally see that where, tax planning isn't something that, especially in our community, is seen as critical or very important. Just look at when it's end of year tax returns, everyone leaves it till the last minute. You can ask any accountant and they'll tell you how frustrating that is.
Yeah.
So again, for us, it's about, educating our community, educating our clients, that you plan way ahead and, make it simple and as less stressful as possible by doing so.
Absolutely. So you can do that by calling us or texting us, as I say, your questions 07450 925 084 if you want to send us a question. Unfortunately, you can't call into the studio because our line is blocked up at the moment. But no, I can just see there, Brother Yusuf, love you for the sake of Allah. Me, your brother from Pakistan. So, okay, we won't be dealing with tax issues in Pakistan. Not that one. Not even Naya Pakistan, right? But we can be answering general questions to do with the UK. Relating to tax liability, tax planning. Have you got multiple houses, for example? How do you manage the tax liability on that? Have you got several businesses and houses as well? Because there's lots and lots of people like that, Huzaifa, right?
That's right. MashaAllah, we keep saying it, Leicester's a very wealthy community. And, business owners have several businesses, property portfolios. You'll also see that they've got different partnerships with, friends, colleagues, and also associates. So, they've got their hands in so many pies.
Yeah, and they've got multiple relationships, which are very complicated for the average Joe public, right, to deal with.
That's right. That's where we come in and help, assist our clients in restructuring their businesses, their investments in the right manner, which makes it easier to manage as well at the same time.
Yeah, and of course, sorry, go ahead, Ismail. Sorry, we left you out in the cold there.
No, it was interesting. You just mentioned, Brother Yusuf, somebody I think asked something about assets in Pakistan. I thought it'd be an opportunity, to mention that we have many clients, and I'm presuming in Leicester. I mean, in London, there's quite a large number of these, but historically, there's been a lot of structures that have been created to hold UK property, where, for example, the companies would be offshore, and there were certain tax benefits in doing so. However, going forward, we're assisting a lot of these clients to bring their properties offshore into the UK. So there is a special tax planning that we can do. So if there are people who have properties in the UK and these properties are owned by an offshore company, be it in Jersey, in Virgin Islands, wherever it may be, there is a way where we can transfer the ownership back into the UK, and going forward, there will be a lot more cost efficient and tax efficient for clients to do so.
Well, there we are. That's excellent. That's I was wrong about the Pakistan issue there. So, I'm wrong. But we're actually coming towards the end of the show, I believe. Is that right? Yes, we are coming towards the end of the show, Huzaifa. It's gone very quickly, hasn't it?
It has. It's thanks to your company and your barakah.
Yeah, we've got, unfortunately, we've only got 30 odd seconds left. Oh dear, what a shame. But anyway, we've learnt a lot. Brother Ismail, thank you very much. Jazakallah khair for all your answers. And I think we'll be having on the show later on in next week, is it?
So
yes,
next week it will be myself and my colleagues Steve and Mohammed coming.
Steve and Mohammed. Okay, great. Thanks very much, Brother Ismail, for your excellent answers. Barakallah fiqh. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. And assalamu alaikum to Huzaifa. And join us next week for the show. Assalamu alaikum.